Hi friends, and welcome to our second week review episode for the Flinch squad circuit. We are in the Sun series. Last week was great. The feedback on last week's review episode was amazing, so thank you so much, and keep the review feedback coming, and we will keep working on improving this circuit. I've lost the shirt and the tie, got my glasses, but we're being a bit serious, a bit more casual this week. We're going to look at the matchups going into week 2. We've got Jace against Worm's Eye, we've got Pinko versus Will, we've got Marty versus Johnny, Hectic versus Yuri, and then Marty is the player that's playing 2 games this week, playing Stu in our last round. So, really exciting games. I'm going to just pull up the league table for... league table, actually. I'm not going to pull up the league table. I think the league table for week 1. Yes, this is week table for league 1. I was so worried. I was like, oh, we've got the week table for week 2, but we haven't. We've got the table for week 1. So our week 1 leader is Hectic, tying at the top with Will and Johnny. Only thing singling each one out really is the win difference there. Will and Hectic both joint leaders there at the minute. Then Johnny, Worm's Eye, Pokemon all joint top at the moment, so really tight. It obviously would be after week 1. Then you got Urian on 2 points after those 2 losses last week, unfortunately, but I'm sure he will come back stronger. Will on 1 point, and then Pinko and Jace face trailing at the bottom, but I'm sure these guys are going to come back super strong in the coming weeks. So really exciting. There's the league table. There is the matchups for this week, and without further ado, guys, let's get into some episodes. So, first match we're going to cover today is going to be Johnny versus Pokemon, which is going to be a really good game to kick us off. Marty obviously is the player who's playing twice this week, but let's kick into it. So, we can see the first match here. We'll get into it, and I have chopped down some of the games so we can go through it a little bit quicker and the episode isn't as long. So we're going to see Johnny come out in this game 1 here, leading off with that Incineroar and Lunala. Marty leading off with Solgaleo and Incineroar here. So we're going to get the Intimidate off on both ends from these Incineroars, but not really going to affect either Pokemon. Lunala protecting here from any chip damage from the opposing Incineroar on Marty's side of the field, and Marty predicting that, going for the fake out into the Incineroar, and Solgaleo pulling out a big Trick Room. Now this puts him in an awkward position because the Solgaleo is going to be faster than that Incineroar on Johnny's side of the field, so he's got to be a little bit careful around that. We're going to see the Lunala switch out. Doesn't want to take any damage from the Incineroar here. This Tapu Lele going to come in, get that Psychic Terrain up, and the battlefield got weird. So we're just going to see Marty go for a U-turn with his Incineroar. Going to want to reposition his board position, just try and get that chip onto what was the Lunala. Unfortunately, it is the Lele, so that chip's still being useful. Going to see Gastrodon come in for Marty though, and the Psychic Seed activate on that, which is huge for him. We're going to see a knockoff into Solgaleo and doing some decent damage, but after that Intimidate not hitting as hard, with a Superpower coming out in return. Going to be big damage onto the Incineroar, not quite enough though to pick up the knockout. Going to take the attack drop and defense drop here and proc that Super Berry, 50% berry on the Incineroar, getting all that health back, putting it in good position going into this next turn. It is intimidated, maybe it wants to reposition it. Gastrodon going to Earth Power into that slot now. Don't know if that's enough. It isn't quite enough. The Solgaleo is going to take some big damage if this is the target of the Incineroar here. So we're going to see it. Can it survive? It can, barely surviving. The Incineroar going down to that recoil damage from the Flare Blitz. Solgaleo surviving. Is it a Sunsteel Strike? It is. This will be into the Tapu Lele. It will be -1. We've got to remember that it has superpowers, so that drop will come into consideration here. Will it be enough to get the Lele? It has been chipped, and it is enough. Marty taking a big lead here, game 1, so picking up 2 KOs this turn. Leading on to the rest of the match comes down to Kartana coming in with Solgaleo still under that Trick Room, able to pick up the knockout onto the Kartana. Now Johnny down to 1 Pokemon, with that Lunala being the last thing on the field. Side Shock coming out from it under Psychic Terrain, and doing big damage to the Gastrodon, but the Gastrodon's still really good health, and Marty still having 4 Pokemon left. Johnny decides not to give any more information away, and going into a game 2. So here we go. Johnny going to lead off with the Kyogre this time and the Lunala, and Marty going to decide to lead off with Tapu Lele, Solgaleo here. So the Psychic Terrain coming up for Marty and the Tapu Lele and Solgaleo, with the rain coming out from the Kyogre, detecting that it's not Scarfed Kyogre. It is going to be slower than the Tapu Lele. So we're going to see a big wide guard here come out from Marty. This is huge, especially if this Kyogre goes for a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse. Shadow Ball coming out from the Lele. It's Scarfed Tapu Lele. Going into the Lunala, going to break the Shadow Shield, going to take it down to 50% damage, get that special defense drop as well, which is huge, and a Moongeist Beam coming back out from the Lunala. Going to be big damage, potentially picking up a knockout onto either one of these Pokemon. Is going to be in the Solgaleo. Does it hang on? It doesn't. Big knockout, big critical hit there. Don't know if it would have survived regardless, but a big turn there for Johnny. And the Water Spout coming out, but that White Guard coming in super handy here. Now, interesting turn. The Lunala is threatened from the Shadow Ball from the Lele. We know it's Scoffed, it's going to hit first, going to knock it out. Does Johnny reposition? Doesn't. Reposition, he's just going to protect. There isn't any wide guard now to protect that Lele from the Kyogre. It is locked into Shadow Ball. It is going to target down that Kyogre now, just to reduce the damage of that potential Water Spout coming out. But you've got to remember that the Gastrodon coming out, it has Storm Drain. These Water Spouts, Water type attacks, are going to boost its special attack, which it's going to do right now. But the Water Spout going to be probably, it's just not enough to get the KO onto the Tapu Lele. Skull coming out from the Gastrodon into the Lunala, but going into that Protect. Now Lunala going to switch out now, threatened by that Shadow Ball again from the Tapu Lele that it has just hung on. Going to switch into the Tapu Lele now. And a big Shadow Ball, if it's into that slot, it's going to do big damage. Huge damage to the Tapu Lele. Kyogre going for a Thunder now, not wanting to opt to boost those special attack on the Gastrodon with the Storm Drain. Going to go for a Thunder, accurate 100% in the rain, taking down the Tapu Lele, and an Earth Power coming out from the Gastrodon into the Kyogre doing big damage as well, putting in range for another Earth Power to take it down this next turn. Now Xerneas hitting the field for Molly, that Fairy Aura activating there, and we are going to see a bit of a stalemate here. So Magic Room coming out, huge play here from Johnny, pulling out the Magic Room from the Tapu Lele. Going to take away any effects of any held items. Geomancy coming out from the Xerneas, not going to be able to get that one turn Geomancy because of that Magic Room, with another Thunder coming out from the Kyogre, again not opting to boost the special attack of that Gastrodon with any water type attacks. Big turn here, Earth Power coming out. This should be enough to get the Kyogre, which it is. Now, big question is, can Johnny pressure this Xerneas enough this next turn before it gets a Geomancy boost? The Magic Room is in effect, the item can't be used, so can a Psyshock and a Psyshock get it? Geomancy, it is locked into, it cannot attack this turn, going for that second boost here. Showing some speed tiers as well, which is good information if this does go to a game 3. Geomancy is boosting, but the Lunala going for that Psyshock. Is this going to be enough to pick up the knockout? It isn't quite enough. Oh wow, but another Psyshock coming out. Got to be into the Xerneas. It is picking up the kill, and the Xerneas not able to function this game round. But Marty still has his Gastrodon here. It has had that special attack boost. Is going to go into the Tapu Lele now with Earth Power, pick up the KO there. Lele going down. So Johnny left with Lunala, Marty left with Gastrodon. Oh, has he got one more? He has got one more. Johnny's got one more, sorry, it is a Cortana. That is the one Pokemon that's left, and it doesn't look too good here for Marty, and he does forfeit because of that Cortana, able to pick up the quick knockout onto that Gastrodon pretty quickly. So, unfortunately there wasn't a game 3 there in that set because the code that I had didn't work, but Marty went on to win that one. If we can get the code, I'll feature it at the start of next week's episode. Very exciting way for us to kick off here. Now we're going into our second featured match of the week. We're going to go with Yuri versus Hectic, and now we're going to see Urian lead off with that Xerneas with the Tapu Fini, and we're going to see Hectic lead off with the Tornadus and Incineroar here. Intimidate going to come out, no effect either his special attackers on Urian's side of the field, but you've got to be aware of that taunt from the Tornadus. It can freely shut down that Xerneas Geomancy here. So going into turn 1, we're going to see the Xerneas just protect, avoid any fake out, taunt shenanigans going on. I'm going to see a fake out come out from Incineroar. decision there from Hectic, targeting that slot, predicting maybe that the Xerneas doesn't go for the setup because of the taunt, the fake out pressure that he's putting on from his side of the field, while Tornadus sets up the tailwind. Got that speed control now with taunt coming out into the Tapu Fini, not opting to go for the Xerneas here with yes. So Incineroar faster under the tailwind, knocking off that Power Herb. I'm going to deny that one turn Geomancy. Moonblast coming out. Urian not opting to go for that, just wanting to get damage onto the field, going for a Moonblast, big Moonblast into that Tornadus, and putting it in probably range for this Icy Wind to come out from the Tapu Fini. Going to reduce the speed on that Incineroar, so just putting it to +1 after these Tailwinds, and knocking out the Tornadus, taking an early lead here. 4-3 lead with Cortana now hitting the field. Is going to pressure both of these Pokemon on your inside of the field. Has he got the Incineroar on the back? This would be a good time to bring it in, get an Intimidate onto both of these physical attackers, and here it is. Incineroar coming in for Urian. He's going to drop the Intimidate onto both of these Pokemon, reducing their attack power by 1 stage. The Xerneas has to feel super pressured here, but not protecting. Leaf Blade coming out into Incineroar. Not going to do very much, not effective against his fire type. Moonblast coming out from the Xerneas and your inside of the field into Cortana, just wanting to get damage onto it. Scouting out probably is Assault Vest there on that Cortana on Hectic's side of the field with Incineroar pivoting out. So allowing him to get a bit more board position here. Is it the Kyogre? And it is the Kyogre in a really nice position now. The Incineroar on your inside of the field does have access to Fake Out going into this turn, so can potentially stop that Kyogre, but the Cortana is so threatening onto the Xerneas at this point, it needs to reposition, which it is going to right now, and the Groudon going to come in, going to disrupt the weather and put it in Urian's favour, bringing that Sun to the field, taking away the rain and taking away any boosts from that Kyogre, and it eventually comes down to Urian manoeuvring his board position around a bit more, being able to play with that Groudon and then utilise Tapu Fini to remove the Kyogre and take game 1. So being able to remove the Cortana allowed Urian to kind of just predominantly utilise the Groudon, get the Sun up and make sure that the Kyogre wasn't doing as much damage as it was before. We're going to see some adjustments here from Hectic. Going to come out with the Xerneas and the Tornadus here. Urian going to go with the Xerneas and the Tapu Fini. So let's see what we're going to do this turn. The Taunt's still a big threat on Hectic's side of the field for that Xerneas and Urians to set up the Geomancy, but we're going to see the Tapu Fini switch straight out. Incineroar come in, drop the Intimidate, not really effective on these special attackers here, and Urian's not going to protect here. The Taunt coming out this time from the Tornadus into the Xerneas. Xerneas on Hectic's side going for the Geomancy. Free Geomancy boost here. It's going to get that Power Herb activated and boost up and become a super big threat going into this next turn. So, what are we going to see? It's going to get the boost. We know that Urians can't get the boost here. Does it go for it though? That is the big question. Does it go for this boost here? Come on, let's see. Come on, use it. It goes for it, and that Taunt coming in huge there for Hectic. Big turn for him. Urian's going to switch out, get rid of that Taunt on his Xerneas and bring in the Groudon. It will activate that Drought ability, bring the Sun to the field, and this Incineroar on your inside of the field does have Fake Out for this one turn to allow him to get that switch in, to try and get some momentum back, because this Xerneas is so threatening. Tornadus just taking this opportunity to get the Tailwind up, just boost the speed stat even more for the next 3 turns, as Incineroar not opting for the Fake Out, going for a U-turn, going to reposition himself and preserve that Intimidate and Fake Out support for later on in the game. Really nice play there from Urian under such heavy pressure, and Hectic's doing so well. He's put himself in such a dominating position now. Taunt coming out from the Tornadus, suspecting maybe Haze there from the Tapu Fini, going to shut that option down as the Dazzling Gleam comes out, going to do heavy damage to both these Pokemon on your inside of the field, taking them down to just above 50% health, and an Icy Wind coming out from the Tapu Fini here. Going to chip both Pokemon here and reduce that speed stat by 1 stage, reduce that Xerneas down to +1, but the Tailwind is still up, so this is a big problem for Urian. He's got a lot of work to do here. Going to throw out a Precipice Blitz from the Groudon, going to do a big chunk of damage to the Xerneas, avoid the Tornadus because it is a flying type Pokemon. Tornadus now switching out, going to readjust as the Incineroar comes in. Important to get that Intimidate onto the Groudon to stop this big Precipice Blitz damage. The Tapu Fini, you got to remember, is taunted, so cannot Protect is threatened this turn from maybe a Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam again from the Xerneas. Groudon opting to protect this turn, preserve itself for at least one more turn, and Hectic making that big read there for the Groudon protecting, going for a Moonblast, safe Moonblast into that taunted Finny that can't protect and taking it down. So nice play there from Hectic, and we do see an adjustment later on in the game. Urian getting his Xerneas back in. He is able to remove Hectic's Xerneas from the field, which allows him to get his Xerneas onto the field, get that Geomancy boost up finally, but it's still a lot of work to do. Kyogre coming in for Hectic. Gonna get this Dazzling Gleam off onto both Pokemon here. He's got to deal with two Pokemon. Here is a Thunder from the Kyogre in the rain. It's going to do some good damage. Is it going to get the paralysis? It does get the paralysis. Huge paralysis here. Can this be enough for Hectic to pull this back, tie it up and take it through game 3? Flare Blitz coming out, not going to be doing too much in the rain, but this does give Hectic a lifeline right here in front of this Geomancy. Xerneas, the Tailwind does petter out, but even after the Tailwind reduces, no paralysis, and Dazzling Gleam going to be able to come out even with the paralysis, just removing those Geomancy boost to the speed for the Xerneas, able to pick up the win there. So Urian getting a big win for himself in week 2, taking all 3 points against Hectic, who had a massive week 1 win. So our next game is going to be Stu against Marty. We're going to see Stu lead out with the Kyogre and Tapu Lele here, and Marty come out again with that favoured lead of his with the Solgaleo and Tapu Lele here. So double Tapu Lele lead. We're going to see that Marty's is going to activate the Psychic Terrain before that Kyogre, kind of indicating that if it is Scarfed, both Pokemon, the Tapu Lele is definitely faster. Maybe some better information for Stu here rather than for Marty. So we're going to see Stu's Tapu Lele Protect. We're going to see Psyshock come out from the Tapu Lele straight into that Kyogre, kind of predicting maybe that it is Scarfed. Take huge damage with an Origin Pulse. Stu suspecting that attack and not opting for the Water Spout, going for the big damage, consistent damage with that Origin Pulse, putting everything into a really awkward position on Marty's side of the field. But Stu wanted to preserve that Kyogre for later, not going to take any risks to get it knocked out from that Tapu Lele. Marty's side of the field opting to bring in the Tornadus and also pulling the double switch, bringing in the Amoonguss here to avoid any big damage. And the Psyshock coming out again from the Tapu Lele, going to be into that what was Kyogre slot, now into the Tornadus, and it does take it down to its sash, revealing that the Tornadus has got the sash there but hanging on, and the Sunsteel Strike coming out from the Solgaleo. Where is this going to be into? It's got to be into... is it into... no, it's into the Amoonguss. I didn't know if it was going to be the double tap into the Tornadus, but a red card being revealed on the Amoonguss and throwing out the Solgaleo, bringing in the Gastrodon now. So Gastrodon activating that special Psychic Seed, special defensive boost there, put himself in a nice position. So the Amoonguss actually switching out now. I want to activate that Regenerator ability, get the Tapu Lele back in for Stu's side of the field as the Tornadus goes for that speed control, trying to get some sort of momentum going here and doing really well at it. Once the Psyshock comes out, takes it down, and then we've got a game of where Stu has got it down to the Xerneas versus his Amoonguss. Xerneas has been put to sleep by this Amoonguss, and the Xerneas on such low health now that Amoonguss is so low health as well, and Stu doing really well to get it into this position. Clear Smog, it's all about whether or not Marty Xerneas can wake up. Clear Smog just not quite enough here, removing those stat boosts if there was any, and now no wake up. So Stu is going to take game 1. Big game. Really nice play there from Stu, and after what looked like such a really awkward lead there with taking so much damage from that Scarflele, it really was awkward for him to get that position, but to bring it down to that position right at the end with the Amoonguss, able to get the Spore off and get a Clear Smogs and knock out that Xerneas and take game 1. Massive props to him. But the question is, can Marty readjust going into this game? See the standard leads from Marty here with the Lele and the Solgaleo, and Kyogre and Tornadus coming out for Stu. We're going to see the Kyogre switch out straight away. Going to bring in that Amoonguss, which was such a threat in game 1. Tailwind going straight up from the Tornadus. Going to make sure that everything on his side of the field is the fastest thing on the field. Tapu Lele going for a Psyshock into what was the Kyogre slot. Now the Amoonguss taking it down. and is actually able to hang on, activating that red card again. Going to force the Tapu Lele out and bring in the Gastrodon for Marty. So what are we going to see the Solgaleo do? Is it going to go for a Trick Room to counteract that Tailwind? It'd be a big play if it is, and it is. So here we go. Big question is, what's slower? Is it going to be the Gastrodon or is it going to be the Amoonguss? That is the big thing. If it's a Gastrodon, it's actually under speeds the Amoonguss, which is huge here, able to pick up the knockout onto that Amoonguss. This is a huge turn for Marty here. The massive difference in the speed stat there, totally throwing the game from where the Amoonguss would be able to spoil things, disrupt, and cause a lot of havoc. But because that Gastrodon obviously undersped, being able to do some big damage and taking the Tornadus down to what looks like it may just be above Sash, with the Hurricane coming out and getting the confusion onto the Gastrodon. And Kyogre are now going to hit the field. Now we do suspect that this Kyogre is Scarfed, but if it is, it's going to have a really hard time in the Trick Room environment. We're going to see White God come out from Marty Solgaleo. Can this Gastrodon attack though? It is confused. It does get the attack off. It is going to be a Scald into the Tornadus, take it down. So no more Hurricanes coming out from this side of the field. And what does this Kyogre go for? It's got to go for a Thunder if it's going to hit anything for good damage, but it is an Orange Impulse blocked by that White God from the Solgaleo, giving nice protection for both Pokemon. But at the same time, you kind of want that Gastrodon to get the special attack boost as well, but at the same time it's fine. So Stu in an awkward position, want to try and stall out these Trick Room turns, going to protect his Tapu Lele here. Another Wide God coming out from the Solgaleo, and this is a question, is this Kyogre Scarfed? If it does go for another Origin Pulse here, we know that it is. Confusion going to actually kick in here on the Gastrodon, prevent it from attacking, as the Kyogre is probably now more than sure about anything that it is Scarfed. Tailwind does pit her out, so got 2 more turns of Trick Room. Tapu Lele going for that double protect to try and stall these out, with another Wild God coming out just to protect against those big Origin Pulses from this Kyogre. We're going to see the Gastrodon snap out of its confusion, go for Scald, but it is into that protect on the Tapu Lele here. Kyogre going for that Origin Pulse again, but again blocked by that Wild God. Marty here in a nice position, can just constantly go for that Wild God. Tapu Lele not putting on too much pressure as the Trick Room does disappear, and the Rain as well as the Psychic Terrain. So these Origin Pulses aren't going to be as powerful. It is going to be Origin Pulse again, no switch out there from Stu. He is just going to lock into that, going to boost and activate that Storm Drain ability on the Gastrodon, boosting that special attack. Moonblast going to come out into the Solgaleo, going to try and get rid of this Pokemon, but just not quite enough with the Origin Pulse. Sunsteel Strike comes out. This is surely going to be enough to pick up the knockout onto the Tapu Lele, and then the Gastrodon's free to just Earth Power into the Kyogre, which should make it easy enough to pick up on the next turn, still having that access to that Wide God to prevent those Origin Pulses that it's locked into, as the Gastrodon opts for the recover there. No switch out obviously the turn before, because Stu is down to his last 2 Pokemon with the Kyogre and the Lele, and it looks like we are going to see a forfeit there on Stu's end, tying this set up. So very exciting going into game 3. We're going to see Kyogre and Tapu Lele come out for Stu again. Tapu Lele and Solgaleo. Marty not changing anything up here, is quite happy with this lead, threatening that Kyogre with a Psy Shock this first turn, doing huge damage. You saw how much it did that turn 1. As Solgaleo straight away busts out the Wide God, not wanting to take any damage from a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse, as that Psy Shock does come into the Kyogre and do that big damage that we've seen it do before. Stu going for an Origin Pulse, blocked by that, and the end game eventually comes down to Solgaleo attacking into the Tapu Lele and picking up the knockout there. I think the turn previous, sorry, it's not the end game, we're in mid game, we're just highlighting the knockouts here. So the first knockout, we get the Solgaleo getting the Tapu Lele there. The Kyogre switches out for the Incineroar. It is into a Psy Shock, so it does absorb that very well. Going to see the Rage Powder now come out for the Amoonguss, protect this Incineroar from any superpower damage, as we see a Psy Shock come out from the Tapu Lele. It is going to activate that red card. Amoonguss is able to take that. Some super good EVs here, but you've got to imagine if it is superpower coming out from the Solgaleo, it is going to be enough, as the Gastrodon is dragged onto the field from that red card and activates that Psychic Seed the same turn, boosting that special defense. A superpower does come out from the Solgaleo, but where does this Incineroar attack into? Where is it going to go? If it's into the Solgaleo, you've got to imagine it's probably enough to pick up the knockout now, and it will be able to remove the life orb as well from the Solgaleo after the defense drop. But we're not going to see that. We're going to just see a U-turn come out from the Incineroar. Going to pivot back, going to save that Intimidate and fake out support for later on in the game as Kyogre hits the field again. So low health now, and it's not in the greatest position as Incineroar comes out to join it and offers that fake out support. Going to get the Intimidate off, but again into the full metal body of the Solgaleo. Not going to activate, not going to do anything, and Gastrodon doesn't really care too much about the Intimidate either. So Solgaleo eventually does go down. Gastrodon going for that Earth Power, but the Kyogre is able to survive and get through this next turn. So Kyogre and the Incineroar on Stu's side of the field got a lot to do. He has only got 2 Pokemon left. Xerneas is going to come in. It's just bait for the Stu side of the field as the Solgaleo comes back out. Kyogre going to opt for that Ice Beam. Doesn't want to boost this Gastrodon's special attack any further with that Stormbreaker ability. But the freeze, the huge freeze on the Solgaleo here as Incineroar goes for a knockoff, but it's into the Gastrodon. Has already activated that Psychic Seed, so not going to be double damage unfortunately, with the Skull coming out doing huge damage. Going to be putting it in range for the next turn as the rain does disappear. Psychic Terrain does disappear, but this Solgaleo is in an awkward position. Now Stu is able to eventually get rid of the Gastrodon, going for the double tap into that slot. Solgaleo is still frozen, not able to attack here, but this does open the door for Stu to actually utilise that Kyogre a little bit more, especially now the Gastrodon is gone, the Storm Drain ability has gone. But Marty is able to just freely go for that Geomancy boost with his Xerneas, and now things have flipped in his favour. It looks really difficult for Stu to get back, but you never know. Solgaleo still not going to thaw out, and rightly so. Stu ignoring that slot by going for a Flare Blitz into the Xerneas, taking huge damage and getting the burn. That is huge. That is huge here, because if that burn can be stalled out, it can take down the Xerneas. Will probably have one more turn after this, so if Stu can get through this next turn and then the next one, it would be huge. But Dazzling Gleam going to come out, and unfortunately is enough to pick up game 3 for him here and take the set. What a great set that was. There was such a good set from both players, so massive props to both of them, and Marty able to take it on. So we are going into our last set of the episode. We're going to have Will versus Pinko. We're going to see Will come out with this Palkia Amoonguss. Palkia, one of I really do love this team, and Pinko going with that solid lead that he went with last week with the Raichu and the Lugia. So I'm going to see adjustments here, but this Palkia is going to get carried away in this match, doing so much in this match, especially with the Kyogre there on the opposite side of the field. It makes it very difficult for Pinko to get any kind of positioning. There we see the first knockout coming out from the Palkia, picking up that Kyogre. Now once that's gone, that's one restricted down for Pinko, making it very difficult. And now the Amoonguss comes out to help support this Palkia as we see it go for a Trick Room, and then that is going to be enough here with the Amoonguss out to take game 1 for Will, with 2 Pokemon left on Pinko's side of the field. Now Will going for game 2, changing things up a little bit with that Palkia, and now the Cortana lead from his side of the field. It's also Pinko changes things up as well with the Cortana of his own and that Raichu. So we're going to see here Raichu go for the Fling. It is going to throw that Lancet Berry into the Cortana, going to make sure that it does activate, and it's going to be getting pumped, focus energy, everything should be a critical hit from this Cortana now. But Will's Cortana goes first, huge turn with it's not even a critical hit, big Sacred Sword into that slot, picking up the knockout straight away, just negating that Lancet Berry boost as the Palkia pulls out the Trick Room again, turn 1, putting him into a nice position. And as we see, Palkia, once it's got that Trick Room up, it is going to be able to take advantage of that rain from the Kyogre, take down the Raichu with a Hydro Pump. We're going to see the Lele go down as well to another Hydro Pump from that Palkia, and then Pinko just left with his Kyogre, which is not going to be able to really come back against an Amoonguss and a Palkia. Unfortunately, just not enough in the tank to do this, so it does mean that Will picks up another win this week and goes 2-0 and jumps up to what is probably the top of the table here, behind Marty, who has got a game advantage, but Marty going top of the league here this week, which is incredible. And I will pull up the league table right now, because I feel like we need to see league table after week 2, which is going to be week 2 league table. Let's have a look. If I've got it here, I should have it. Week table league 2, here we go. And it's incredible to see. So, like, massive props to all the players. We've got Marty at the top of the league now. He has got 9 points. We've got Will in second place with 6, Joran with 5, Johnny with 4, Nigel Wormseye with 3, Hectic with 3, Stu with 2. Jay's still down at the bottom, but he has got a game advantage because for different reasons, Jason and Wormseye weren't able to play this week, and Pinko in last position, but I do have good faith in Pinko that he's going to come good in this tournament. I have a lot of faith in him, and we're going to have some really crazy matches. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this, enjoying the content. It's been hopefully enjoyable to be able to kind of feature these matches and how I've done it this week. Hopefully it's a lot better, a lot cleaner, and any suggestions and feedback on it would be massively helpful, guys, because I do want to keep improving this. I know sometimes I'm probably talking over the matches really quickly and trying to do it, but it's to try and keep the episodes down and short, and try to keep them as kind of condensed as possible. And I can't fit everything in, but I'm going to try to do it and maybe have feature matches. But we've got some special games coming up in the next couple of weeks, so it will be a lot of fun. But Marty, who would have thought, doing so well, so massive props to him. 3 games played, 3 wins, win difference 3, and 9 points. Stallman away, 3 points ahead. Obviously with that game advantage, he's just took advantage of that and jumped right ahead of the board. But Will hot on his heels there with 2 games played, 2 wins, and also that win difference of 3. So still very tight and still very early on in this tournament, so there's a lot of games to be played and anything can happen. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Hopefully the condensed one will be a lot more fun. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up week 3 matchups so you guys can see who we've got for week 3 games, and it will be a lot of fun to see. So next week we're going to have Jace versus Pokemati, we're going to have Will versus Johnny, Hectic versus Wormseye, Stu versus Yuri, and Wormseye is going to be our lucky player who gets 2 games next week, so I guess we'll probably feature a couple of his games against Pinko. So stay tuned, guys. We will be back next week with another review episode of our Flinch Squad Circuit. It's going super well at the minute. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone's enjoying it. Again, thank you for watching. Smash that like button, and I will see you all again very soon. So until the next one, take care and bye-bye.